The most terrifying supernatural consequences are born from silent inaction. It is the moment a simple moral choice is ignored that true horror begins. It was a muted, yellow-skied Sunday evening. 5 friends drove out of the city limits, masking their growing unease with loud music and the specific, unearned arrogance of those who believe they are untouchable. Deep on a dirt road, the night shattered. A black cat stood frozen in the headlights, its eyes a flat, unnatural white. Then the violent screech of brakes and a sickening, muffled thud. Mr. A stepped out into the dust. They checked the bumper and the road, finding no blood, no fur, and no body. Based on that lack of evidence, they made the collective decision to simply get back in the car and drive away. The trap was set the second the tires rotated forward. By refusing to take responsibility, they created a moral vacuum that the deep forest immediately began to fill, signaled by a long, haunting meow echoing from the trees. Escape became physically impossible almost immediately. The engine died mid-roar, and as the hood was lifted, they found thick, dark blood, not coolant, dripping slowly onto the dry earth. A tall, faceless stranger emerged from the mist, offering a path to shelter. He led them to a 2-story stone house that loomed in a clearing, its glassless windows staring back like empty black sockets. The environment itself began to enforce their isolation through a kind of karmic geography. As they reached the porch, both car tires simultaneously exploded, cutting off their last connection to the world outside. Inside, the house began to strip away their remaining sanity. Vikram's torchlight hit the walls, revealing old family photographs where every human face had been obsessively and violently gouged out by fingernails. The house functioned as a psychological holding cell. Every damp wall and scratched portrait was placed to systematically erode their security before the final judgment arrived. The executions began upstairs. Rahul followed the sound of a crying child into a small room, only for the door to lock him in with a shifting, smoky figure that possessed those same flat, white eyes. His screams were cut short, replaced by a silence so heavy it felt physical. When the door finally gave way, the room was empty, save for 5 deep, bloody claw marks carved into the wood. They fled back into the woods, but the ground itself had turned predatory. Samir's legs were seized by unseen forces, and he was violently dragged backward into the murky soil, disappearing into the earth in seconds. The entity then turned Vikram, the group's primary protector, against the very people he was trying to save. He stopped mid-run, his eyes hollowing out into pits of black ink, and he began to hunt Priya with a cold, predatory focus that destroyed their final bond of trust. These deaths followed a calculated, sequential logic. Each survivor was removed in a way that maximized the psychological torture of the driver, Mr. A, watching his world collapse beat by beat. The stranger reappeared, standing motionless as he revealed the central truth. 10 years ago, on this exact road, a car carrying 5 people had struck him and his cat, and it had never stopped to look back. The forest was operating under a strict law of karmic symmetry. The variables of the present night perfectly mirrored the crime of the past. 5 occupants in the car then, and 5 occupants in the car now. An exact, inescapable mathematical match. The group was being hunted for replicating the exact cowardice of the original killers. By hitting that cat and fleeing, they had signed their names to a decade-old debt. The monster in the trees was merely a physical manifestation of the group's own failure to take accountability for what they had done. Mr. A was the only one left. He sprinted blindly into the dark, his heart hammering as he tried to outrun the slaughter. But he was caught in a spatial loop. No matter how far or fast he ran, the trees would eventually part to reveal the front porch of the cursed house. Every exit led back to the beginning. He finally walked back inside and climbed the stairs. In the final room, he found the stranger and his 4 dead friends sitting completely motionless around a single chair, with their white eyes waiting for him. This was the peak of the judgment. Mr. A was physically forced to sit and look at the exact human consequences of the crime he had tried to drive away from. At 7 the next morning, local police discovered the 5 bodies seated in that upstairs room. Their faces were frozen in expressions of absolute, paralyzing recognition. The autopsy revealed a bizarre forensic anomaly. Every inch of their skin was covered in thousands of tiny, perfectly precise cat scratches. These marks acted as a physical ledger, an exact accounting of the pain they had caused, paid back in full through a night of meticulous, individually counted agony. Curses do not strike when you make a mistake. They strike when you make a mistake and refuse to look back.